Welcome to the Japan Reach podcast, the podcast where we explore the world of Japan and what makes it such an amazing place. Konnichiwa, everyone, and welcome to another Japan Reach podcast brought to you by Japan Reach, reaching the Japanese people one relationship at a time. The team here at Japan Reach has traveled extensively in Japan and have a lot of experience with Japanese people and Japanese culture. This podcast will explore fun things that we have uncovered during our journeys, and we will bring in guests to talk about their experiences and how they got interested in Japan. I hope you'll enjoy. Today, I want to talk about the little spacecraft that could. Before I do, I'm sure you know that Japan is a technology-rich country, so it probably wouldn't surprise you that they are active in space exploration. However, I'm guessing you've never heard about the next story. On May 20th, 2010, the Akatsuki spacecraft was launched from Tanegashima Space Center on a mission to Venus. By the way, Akatsuki means dawn in English. It took about 7 months to reach its target, and on December 16th, it ignited its orbital maneuvering engines in an attempt to insert the spacecraft into orbit. Up to this point, everything was going flawlessly. However, the maneuvering engines failed. It was determined that the firing of the maneuvering engines, which was supposed to go for 12 minutes, only went for about 3. As a result, the spacecraft ended up orbiting the Sun instead of Venus. On top of that, the 3-minute burn destroyed the maneuvering engines, which meant that they couldn't be used again. Just a note, it was later determined that the cause of the malfunction was contamination in the fuel mix that made the engines burn hotter than expected, thereby destroying the engines. This is where the story gets really interesting. Instead of giving up, the scientists at JAXA, the Japanese version of NASA, put their heads together and came up with a plan. On the present course around the Sun, the spacecraft would eventually come close enough to Venus to attempt another orbital insertion maneuver. However, it would take 5 years to get there on a spaceship that only had 4.5 years of battery power supply. To extend the life of Akatsuki, it was placed in a lower power state, hibernation, until it could come close to Venus again. This gave the scientists at JAXA time to figure out how to get it into orbit without its maneuvering engines, if it was even possible. After working out the details and doing lots of tests and calculations, it was determined that the insertion would be attempted with 4 attitude control thrusters called the reaction control system. The problem, of course, is that these thrusters were very small compared to the original maneuvering engine. In order for this to work, they needed to reduce the mass of the spacecraft, so they vented the remaining contaminated fuel from the maneuvering engines overboard on October 2011. On November 1st, as the spacecraft reached the optimal insertion point, the reaction control thrusters were fired. Before we go on, it's important to understand that these thrusters were designed to make small adjustments to the ship. In that capacity, they might fire for a few seconds at a time, one at a time, until a small correction was made. However, in this case, the 4 thrusters were fired for a full 20 minutes, despite the fact that they were never rated for that kind of abuse. After 20 minutes, the spacecraft achieved a 13-day-long orbit around Venus, and after a few more adjustments, a 9-day orbit was achieved. With Akatsuki in stable orbit, the real work started. With its 5 different cameras working at several wavelengths, Akatsuki has, and continues to this day, to study the atmospheric dynamics and cloud physics of Earth's closest neighbor. Well done to the amazing scientists of Japan. I want to wrap this up by saying one of the reasons I really love this story is, first, I'm a bit of a space junkie, and second, I just love stories that highlight the resourcefulness of the human spirit. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Please share it with other Japanese enthusiasts, and we'll see you next time. God bless and Jomata.